I'm here with Katie Nimon, who is the MP for Napier. Kia ora, Katie, and thanks for joining me.
Kia ora, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Katie, it's been what, just about a year now, just over a year that you've been in Parliament. Big change to your life.
Huge. And actually, it's interesting. We had multiple milestones, because all of us new MPs got bundled off to Wellington on the 14th of October or the 15th, the day after the election. But we didn't actually get sworn in until the 6th of December, because, of course, we formed a government and then we had the opening statement. And so all of these things happened in succession, but it makes it quite an interesting year to reflect on. So I really look at the calendar year and think, gosh, we've done a huge amount. It's been a very, very busy year and a great way to learn. Doing that much that quickly, it's really like diving in the deep end and just, sink or swim.
There is an accusation by some that your government hasn't actually done anything. It's just stopped things and repealed things. What do you have to say about that?
I would say to anyone that wants to challenge us on that, all you have to go and do is look at our quarterly action plans. Every single one of them has the quarterly action plan, what we plan to do, and then the report card. And you just see achieved on every single one of them. Each of them had about 36 to 40 things per quarter. And you can absolutely see they weren't all repealed. Of course, some people will say that, and some of that stuff that we repealed is necessary to do, but we did set up a whole lot. And at the end of the day, one example of something that we did was put more money into people's back pockets this budget back in May. And, we really saw a big boost in people's spending and people's well-being. That kind of stuff makes a big difference, and that wasn't a repeal.
Yeah. And what would you say the highlights of your parliamentary term so far has been?
One of the biggest things, and forgive me, Andrew, there are a number of different things that are all really exciting, but if you let me pick one, I'll pick this one. Passing a members' bill. That was really special. So I was really lucky to pick up a members' bill from Matt Ducey. Ministers aren't allowed to have members' bills in the biscuit tin. And so there's a tradition of ministers, when they become ministers, they hand over a members' bill to an incoming MP. And I was really pleased to be able to pick up Matt Ducey's mental health strategy bill. It's actually called the Paiora Healthy Futures Mental Health Amendment Bill, but that's a mouthful. And so the idea of it was to have a mental health strategy mandated as part of our health plan. And that wasn't the case when the Paiora Healthy Futures reform was done by the previous government. And so having that passed into law unanimously across government was really exceptional. It was an amazing experience to be able to shepherd that through, to be able to talk through the select committee process, to speak on the bill first, second and third readings. That was pretty remarkable. And some people like Jerry Brownlee, for example, he's been in Parliament for a very long time and has not once had a members' bill passed through law. So it's all very cool.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Now, a lot of people, this because you travel it, but a lot of people might not be aware that your electorate includes Wairoa. So you've got quite a way to go, and I know you go up there quite often. Just in terms of the rebuild, what are you seeing on the ground with the cyclone rebuild? Are things happening?
Yeah, great question. And I think there has been a remarkable uptick in work recently. And I think that's the nature of how work happens. Is a long time goes before you really see things come together, and then all of a sudden they come together. And what we've seen, if people haven't been on State Highway 2 North recently, is the Devil's Elbow is almost completely reopened to 2 lanes, which is incredible. And so the travel time for a while, when I was going up to Wairoa, at times it was 2 hours, 10 minutes. Now it's back to 1 hour 40, and the original time was about 1 hour 30, and that's from Napier. So they've done an exceptional job. And I don't think anyone that could argue that, but we have had trouble along the way with roads being closed for too long, for parents to wait to get kids to school or to get to doctor's appointments, to get to the airport. And so, I felt in ZTA was really hard to work on those things and to reduce that wait time. And all of a sudden, where progress has just gone up a gear, and so it's been really pleasing to see. And I tell you, I go up there a lot, and it's been fantastic to have a reduced travel time, so I don't have to factor in so much time to get up there and back again.
Is there any chance that there will be a different route though to cut that travel time even more?
Yeah, well, look, work's being done at the moment to look at the realignment for the Waikato Gorge. That's phase one. Well, actually, in fact, phase one was the Matahura Gorge, which was already done some time ago. I suppose phase two is the Waikato Gorge. So there was money put aside in the RLTP, the National Land Transport Plan this year, out of NZTA's State Highways budget to look at that realignment that will divert through existing farmland and to avoid the drive through the gorge. So that in itself will cut down travel time. The long-term strategy will sort of become something that we see develop over time. But that's something I'm really excited about and continue to advocate for.
And how is the rebuild generally going generally, not just roads and that, but other things and that? How are you finding?
Yeah, look, I think it's really good. One of the issues that we've got is that it was really the horticulture sector that was flattened after the cyclone. And so, of course, you know, as it stands, trees take 6 years to grow fruit when you have to plant new ones. And that's a long time for horticulturalists and orchardists to wait to get cash flow back to be able to repay the debt that they've borrowed to be able to rebuild. And so, you know, something really exciting we actually just introduced to Parliament last week is the Gene Technology Bill. And there's already developments underway that see fruit trees grow fruit within a year. And so these are the kinds of things that we're investing in to help develop that. And so we can grow that economy back faster because our horticulture sector is huge for Hawke's Bay. The other thing, obviously, is investing in industry. And so that's really important for us as well. So I think in terms of the industry rebuild or economy rebuild, that's going well. In terms of property and buyout, I know that's a Hastings District Council for the most part recovery, but you know we're getting really frequent updates from the Minister's office, and I'm pleased to see how that's tracking. In terms of relocating marae, that's tracking well as well. All of these things are complicated, especially when you're dealing with people's properties. And then, of course, flood protection, that's something that our government is investing in heavily. And there's a lot of funding coming from the Regional Infrastructure Fund towards cyclone recovery in respect of flood protection as well, so people can get back into their homes.
Now, you work very closely with the local councils, you and Catherine Wedd, your counterpart in Tukituki. How's that relationship going?
Yeah, look, good. I think it's really constructive. Depends on the council in terms of what we're dealing with. So in some cases, you know, we're working closer with Hastings District, especially when it comes to the buyout process and some of that work and a lot more of the roading network. But of course, I deal with Napier City Council on many issues as well, but less of it is related to cyclone recovery. And then, of course, you know, when it comes to the flood protection, that is predominantly with Hawke's Bay Regional Council, but of course it's also with industry. You know, we're seeing with the Whirinaki flood protection, we're working really closely with PAMPAC on that. In the same way that in Awatoto, we're working with the businesses along Waitangi Road. And so it's all collaborative, but at the end of the day, we're there to enable, we're not there to do it for them. Because of course we want things locally led. So, you know, we've really got an open dialogue. We hear from them when there are issues, we help facilitate and advocate for progress, and so you know that's really important for us. But you know we've got an open line of communication, meet regularly, and like to see that there aren't any things in the way of progress, because at the end of the day we want Hawke's Bay to be back and back to full steam. You know what we were doing before the cyclone.
Because all the mayors, without exception, tell me that the system of local government is broken, and they say that they just don't know where they're going to get money from, and they just can't keep increasing rates. Your government, and as early as as recent ago as a few days ago, Simeon Brown has said that basically we want councils stick to their core roles and not to have nice to have projects, and that councils are saying they don't have nice to have projects. They are sticking to core roles. And they believe government should be funding more or finding a solution to this. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd say that there's always going to be a scale, because depending on the council you talk to, they'll all say they're doing the basics, but some in fact are just doing the basics, and others think that the things they are doing are the basics. And so there's always going to be a spectrum, and we're aware of that. And so for us, it's about really resetting expectations and being really clear, because one example we've given is, and I say this with inverted commas because we say, please don't gold plate your infrastructure. Now, of course, what we think of as gold plating and what councils think of as gold plating are two different things. And so it's really important for us to clarify that and make sure that we're on the same page, because, you know, when we make those expectations really clear, there is more of an understanding. But look, I can't tell you every line item that's on a council's books. But, you know, when it comes to, you know, building new toilet centres or, you know, new pathways where there might be something quite close by, or a sculpture, for example, you know, and I know that these things don't cost the same thing, but you know, sometimes getting strong water infrastructure is the priority. And if you ask people in the neighbourhood, especially where I live, they'd rather see stormwater actually going down the drain than having a really nice campaign on dog parks, for example. So, you know, I think this is not me speaking on behalf of every resident, and for me, I'm a resident of Napier City Council. But, you know, some of these things you just got to order in terms of priority. Flood protection and stormwater drainage and these kinds of things are really important for people. Being able to drive through a street and not hit a pothole, really important for people. Other things maybe not so much, but that is a journey that we have to go on together, and it's absolutely our job as a government to make sure those expectations are really clear so that councils understand what we mean by doing the basics right.
You mentioned gold plated. So are you saying that councils have a sort of unrealistic expectation of what they should be doing, what should be done?
I think that perhaps over time we've had unrealistic expectations created, and I would say by a previous government absolutely has let that happen. But you know, let's just say as an example, gold plating infrastructure, where we had a one-way rural bridge be washed out by the cyclone, rebuilding it to 2 lanes with a cycleway, perhaps is a bit of a gold-plated scenario. And so what we might say is if you're out rural, maybe 30 minutes out of town, that perhaps 2 lanes is a great solution, given you had previously had a 1-lane bridge, and that cyclists may be able to cross over those lanes rather than having to have a separate attachment. And so that's just one example I can give.
What is that example that you're saying? What
where
example?
Is that Wellington?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so look, this is not taking aim and saying, oh, you know, cyclists don't belong out in Rissington, but this is saying out in a rural setting with the volume of traffic that goes over those bridges, you know, cyclists and cars and trucks, you know, can share a bridge in the frequency that they're used. Whereas when you've got an urban setting like Waipipi, having a cycle lane across the bridge like that, you know, maybe that does make sense, and that is a realistic, that's a realistic solution. So again, I'm not a transport engineer, but these are the kinds of things we have to make really clear. You know, it's not enough for us to say, don't gold plate. We need to say, what do we consider gold plating? And that's just a transport example.
As devastating as the cyclone was, it was an opportunity to build back better. So do you think it's fair that councils are saying, well, let's try and get the best we can?
Oh, absolutely, it's fair. And I think going from a single lane bridge to a 2-lane bridge is huge progress. Same to be happening for Vicarage Road and Tokitapu. And these are both fantastic improvements that, you know, wouldn't necessarily be on the cards for councils unless they were part of a rebuild project. And I also think that that's had a big part to play in us getting the expressway 4-lane as well. Because we've seen with the disruption after the cyclone, losing the Miani Road Bridge, you know, these things are really, really important for us. So I think that's a silver lining in a really complicated and difficult time for us all. But hey, progress does come, and you make hay while the sun shines, or you find the silver lining in the clouds, whatever the saying is.
Because you mentioned the expressway, turn it into 4 lanes. It's actually started. There are actually diggers out there, and that. What's the latest update? You've been out there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, look, it's really exciting, and they've been doing work that has enabled us to be 15 months ahead of time. So what's happening at the moment is they're doing what we call enabling works, and enabling works is effectively laying the foundation for the actual work that's going to happen. So what people can expect, and I'm always happy to tell people more detail than they maybe want to know because it's helpful, is they're actually taking silt from Cyclone and laying the foundation for the new overpass at Kennedy Road at the moment. Once that's done, which they're nearly complete with that, they'll be moving on to doing the same thing at the overpass over the Tutaikuri River. And that will then settle because, of course, that silt that's being compounded, they have to let that sink so that it gets to that compounded level. They've sprayed an amazing wool fibre over top of the silt to keep that silt there and stop it from flying away. And so this is all amazing technology, but what they've been able to do is get us 15 months ahead. So we'll see that settle, but they're doing it in stages, so it will feel like the progress is continuing. And then the work will start on the actual platform on building the paving later next year. And so that's really exciting progress for us. So we've allowed ourselves to get between 15 and 18 months ahead of time, which is a huge win for Hawke's Bay.
And tell me now, there has been indication from your transport minister that some roads will become toll roads. Is this one of them?
Look, it could be, and we've been really honest about that. We really need to find a way to be able to pay for more roads to be built that are going to make a difference for communities. And this has always been built as an expressway. This road was never there before. I've seen it come up and be expanded over my lifetime as well. And previously, you'd either have to drive through Clive, or you'd have to drive through Pakowhai, or you'd have to drive through Miani, or you'd have to drive through Taradale to get to Napier. And so we have seen that progress. Look, the intention is for roads where there is an advantage for people to use them, that those should be tolled. But NZTA will go through a process. They will consult on it, and we will see what the best outcome is. But the general litmus test is that there need to be alternatives, so that if you choose not to use the tolled option, you have a way of getting from A to B. And so we'll see how that progresses. And I'm really keen to hear the feedback of the community and what they feel is the approach. And if it is to be told, what the right rate is. But look, the feedback I get is from a commercial perspective, trucks accessing the port, people getting to jobs. All they want to do is be able to do more in a day and get there faster. And so it's worth paying for. So we'll see how that all turns out.
What's your involvement? We spoke about Wairau. What's your involvement in the whole situation with the bar and obviously you've appointed Lawrence Yule as Crown Manager. How are things going there? Because it seems to be a bit of tension there in the relationship, obviously with the regional council. Do you think that things are going to be sorted there?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And Lawrence has been very good at regularly updating me. The minister just recently has been up there to catch up on progress and see how things are going. Look, I don't want to get in the way of them sharing their own progress, but I understand things are going really well. And look, it's a really complicated situation because, as you say, the Crown Manager wouldn't exist if the relationship was working really well. And I think there's nothing to hide about that. And so that's exactly our responsibility as a government, is to make sure that where government money is involved, it is progressing at the best interests of the taxpayer. And in this case, that is Wairau residents. And so we want to make sure that they are as safe as they can be as quickly as possible. And we saw some more flooding on Tuesday in Wairau, minimal, but it just shows how vulnerable that town is. I was actually just there on Monday at the opening of some new houses developed by Tato, and they really want to progress, but they don't want to be held back. So look, things are going well, and the team's really confident about progress, and so I look forward to them being able to provide that update, or at least me being able to provide a further update when that comes. But I know that they're working for the best interests of the district, and things are moving along really well, and I know the minister is pleased as well.
One thing that your government has been big on, and you've been quite outspoken about it as well, is crime, and especially ram raids and youth crime, and that. How are things going? Because we saw quite a bit in Napier in particular, and some fairly violent situations.
Yeah, look, it's been really tough, and I can say, at least anecdotally, my experience having been when I started, even when I was a candidate, and then when I started as an MP, the businesses that I was dealing with that were being ram raided, that were having challenges with the council getting the ability to put bollards in, even though they were getting funding from the government to do that, That is all really reduced. And so I'm pleased to hear that. There has been, and I get great updates from the police, a targeted campaign on retail crime. And retail crime isn't just ran raids. You talk to businesses and shop workers, retail assistants in Napier particularly, who, just every day see people come in and walk out with goods that, if they're part of a chain store, for example, the cost of the loss gets built into the products that we all buy. And so there's a benefit to all of us that aren't necessarily directly impacted. We are being impacted as well by retail crime not being managed well. And it's a big priority for the police. There's more police on the beat. And I see that myself when I'm wandering around Napier and Taradale, and it's really nice. I was actually just in Paper Plus in Taradale earlier, and there's a cop walking in, just checking out and seeing how everyone's doing. And that presence does make a difference. It's a deterrent for anyone wanting to undertake criminal activity, but it does give people a better sense of peace and safety of mind. So that's something really important to us. But on a grander scale, the work we've done around legislating the tools for the police to use against gangs, that's really gone down well. The feedback I've got, and even my own experience, has been really positive. So, we've got a lot more work to do, but we've done a huge amount in 1 year, and the feedback I get around the community is really positive. And the police themselves feel far more empowered to be able to do their job and be able to keep us safe.
Because police have really taken this this legislation with banning gang insignia and that, and they're really making arrests and everything like this. Do you think it's there's been accusations that it might be a bit of an overreach? What's your say on that?
What I say is the law's the law, right? I mean, if the police are there and you were speeding, they can pull you over. But if you're speeding and they're not there to pull you over, well then, perhaps they don't. And I think at the end of the day, what we need to do is make sure that the gang members know that law is there for them and it's there to be used, and the police will use it and can use it. And I think that's really important. And it's not to say that anything will get buttoned off, and I sure hope it doesn't. But it's a strong message that has to be sent that the law is there for the police to enforce, and they absolutely can enforce it, and they're going to, because this is about intimidation of the public. And hey, if they want to walk around shirtless or tie bandanas around their arms, that's within the law. And so, I think at the end of the day, that's far less threatening to people going about their business on Marine Parade or in Anderson Park than dealing with someone fully patched up, and what that does to the presence and the behaviour of the gang member when they're wearing their insignia. Yeah.
Now, the other issue of contentious legislation that's coming through is the Treaty of Waitangi Principles Bill, which is being led by your coalition partner ACT, and Christopher Luxon, your Prime Minister, has said that your party will only support it to the first reading. Now, you would have seen the hikoe come through. Did it surprise you, the level of feeling and passion against this?
No, it didn't. And actually, I was driving to Waitangi on the day of the hikoe moving through Hawke's Bay, and so I drove through a bit of an activation in Raupanga as I was driving up towards Gisborne. And I think at the end of the day, it is a freedom of expression, and it's absolutely within anyone's right to express how they feel. But it just showed us exactly what we believed in the first place, is that this piece of legislation is divisive. And, we have seen that emotion come through from a number of people and different perspectives. And so, we feel very strongly that this should go no further, but we were meeting our coalition agreement, and nobody is surprised by that, because we were very honest about that from the start. But we just don't think that that's something that needs to go any further, and we've always been clear about why.
The local iwi chair, Baden Barber, reckons that even if you're saying that you won't support it further, these 6 months have been very damaging in terms of reconciliation and concerns of unity in the country. What do you say about that?
Well, look, I say that our actions speak louder than our words, and we're working really closely with iwi on so many things that are really significant for the future of our relationship. And so we know that that's the work we've got to do. And look, we've always had a really great track record of development for Māori and the Māori economy. And so we just got to keep doing that. We were really clear about how we were going to approach the issues that were in play that were making people feel a sense of injustice, i.e. Three Waters, co-governance of public services, the judicial interpretation of the Macca Bill, the marine and coastal titles. These are all things that we committed to addressing. But additional to that, we have absolutely committed and continue to work really hard with iwi and post-treaty settlement groups to develop them in their economies and enable them to do what they want. And look, I've been part of regular meetings between Tama Potaka, our Māori Crown Relations and Māori Economic Development Minister, as well as the Prime Minister, Minister of Climate Change, Minister of Emergency Management and Recovery. There are many ministers at the table with these conversations, and we're seeing horticulture projects being developed, we're seeing job projects being developed, housing projects being developed. Mana Ahuriri, for example, have got one of the projects on the list of 149 projects with a fast track bill to develop Ahuriri Station. We're absolutely in their corner and we're working really hard on that. And so we're just here to prove that we can get the absolute best outcome for all New Zealanders by doing the do, not continuing to talk about it.
Because you mentioned you went up to an opening in Wairoa. I see you were there with the Ikarau Rafiti MP Kushla. So housing obviously is a concern, and local councils are also putting their attention to it. How is housing in your beat basically going?
Yeah, well, look, good. I think there's great progress and there's a lot of things that we're doing to achieve that. So one is enabling people that are ready to go, and Tato were one of those organisations, and they just needed enabling. Another example is, of course, the work that Kāinga Ora is continuing to do, the work that partner providers are continuing to do, and the investment that we've made in social housing to make sure we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. But additionally, what we're also trying to do is make sure that more land becomes available to build, because it can't all be public housing, but it can't all be affordable housing in green fields. And so it's about making sure that there is a real mixed model approach. And so we have to be reforming the RMA to be able to achieve that. So we just introduced into Parliament last week, or this week in fact, the next phase, because the first phase for us was the repeal. The second phase for us was the fast track approvals bill. The next phase is the resource management next part, which is what we've just introduced. And that's going to allow us to have housing developments happen in a far simpler way. But look, the granny flat legislation is one piece. The other part as well is the building and construction changes that are making it more affordable and more simple for buildings to get built, because we have seen a slow in houses being built because they aren't as easy to do. And so these are all the things that we've got to do together, because we do want growth in all areas of housing. And so look, I see houses go up so quickly, and there's an amazing development that happened in Barker Road a couple of months ago, where 12 houses were built in 147 days. Now that's incredible. We just need to enable stuff to happen.
So what is your priority as an MP, as a local MP, an electorate MP, for 2025?
Right, so keep progress on the expressway, to keep progress on the Waikato Gorge realignment project and make sure that we're seeing sunlight on that one, to see more of these housing developments get finished and people move into them and then become their new communities. I would love to see, and this is a real vision of mine, to see gang-free, drug-free, alcohol-free, even communities for people. And, I talked to the team that are organising Riverbend Road and trying to help them get that across the line, because that's an amazing community of 660 houses that can go into Maraenui. That could potentially be a safe community, because, look, recently I went to go and meet with the residents at MASH Trust, who help rehabilitate people that have mental health and addiction issues. And they said, look, the biggest issue they find when they come out of their care, their residential care, is they know exactly where the drugs are, they know exactly where the alcohol is, and they need to be out of that environment, and that's the hardest thing to happen. So, you know, some of these things would be amazing, but look, I want to see the rebuild of our horticulture industry, growth in potentially our energy sector, which has got so much potential in Hawke's Bay. So there's a lot I want to see, and one big thing is the new economic development plan for Tato up in Wairoa, looking to get a real boost behind their horticulture sector. And so all of this stuff has just got the most amazing prospects for high value jobs for our locals. And so, I mean, a lot happening at once, but we are in a really lucky situation where we've got this opportunity to have a spotlight on us and have some money coming our way because of the cyclones. We've just got to make sure we take it with both hands and use it.
So you're not going to be, if you can help it, a single-term MP then?
If I can help it, absolutely not, Andrew. But hey, that's for the public to decide. Progress always makes the difference, doesn't it?
And do you have aspirations to become a minister?
Oh, look, I see what those guys do, and honestly, I will let them take all the time they need. It's a hard enough job being an MP, and boy, watching them do what they do is incredibly inspiring. But that's one tough job, and I will certainly earn my stripes in what I'm doing before I even consider that.
If you did go further, in the past, MPs of both sides have been accused of losing sight of their electorate. How will you prevent that happening?
Quite right. Well, this is exactly the point, Andrew. This is why doing such a great job as an MP is so important. And it might sound cliche and, oh yeah, of course she's going to say that. But, you know, really setting up the systems and doing that work and being connected with your electorate makes a difference. And, you know, hey, if that happens one day, that's okay. But I would hope by that time I have worked out a way to be able to do both really well. And, you know, that does take time. And, you know, it's one thing is understanding your community. The other is getting the ball rolling and facilitating and enabling. And that's something I really enjoy in my job, is getting people in a room together and say, hey, you're doing this and you're doing this, and why don't we talk together and get this thing done? And it's an incredibly cool part of this job.
For 2025, what can you promise your electorate that they'll get from you?
Well, progress is one thing. We are a government of action. We consistently deliver, and we constantly put goals in front of us and keep achieving those. So you'll see a lot of stuff. But look, the thing I can promise is that there will be spades in the ground on the 4-lane expressway next year. And look, I don't think I've talked to anybody that is upset about seeing roadworks on that road, because that is progress that we have all been crying out for a really long time. And I'm happily working with the community to talk about what noise control sounds like and what the program looks like and how that's all being dealt with. But it's an exciting thing for us as a region. And, you know, a lot of the conversations we have, people say, well, that would all be solved by a 4-lane expressway. And I say, wouldn't it? Isn't it great that that's happening?
Katie Nimon, thanks for your time and all the best. Have a good break, and we'll speak in the new year.
Thanks, and happy summer to you too, Andrew. Hopefully the sun starts shining out your way.
That'd be good. Thank you so much then.
Thanks so much too. Bye.
Thanks.